Chapter 13. Chloe. There's no point in being good just to say you're good, not if it's not helping anyone. And I know a lot of people who need some major help, like all of Oregon. Outside the walls of Merlin Academy, Uli and her band of VKs huddled under a tree for protection from the rain. Hook, with his signature smirk in place, looked through a pair of binoculars. "The coast is clear," he said. But Uli stopped him before he could move. "Not yet," she warned him. She was right to be cautious, because inside Merlin Academy, a hooded figure approached the heavy wooden door to the principal's office. Red pulled out an improvised lockpick and made quick work of it. And as she was about to open the door, she heard footsteps. She whirled round and found Chloe. Chloe had changed into a vintage Merlin Academy attorney uniform, and the midnight blue dress dotted with gold stars made her look like a true hero. With her shoes strapped to her waist, with her sword strapped to her waist and her gloves covering her hands, she was clearly ready for action and reporting for duty. "What are you doing here?" Red asked, ready for a fight. "Getting my hands dirty," Chloe said simply. "You're going to break into the principal's office." Red couldn't keep a smile from stretching across her face. "It's for a good cause," Chloe said, resolute. "And you're already justifying your crimes?" "Love it," Red said approvingly. Chloe huffed a laugh, letting the comment go. They both headed into the office, swinging the door almost all the way shut behind them. Outside the building, Uli and her band of VKs lay in wait. Uliana turned to Morgie and gave him a flirtatious look. "Morgie, honey, you keep lookout, okay? If you see Merlin coming, give a signal." "Should I do a wolf howl? Or like a dog howl?" "I could do different dogs," Morgie started, but the other VKs were already heading toward the school. The high-ceilinged chamber was stuffed with a massive bookshelf, a medieval fireplace big enough to stand inside, and shelves full of artifacts. At the center sat Merlin's desk, a round table amply with a crest inscribed in its stone surface. A dozen swords were inlaid in the crest, pointing toward the middle like the spokes of a wheel. The girls approached the bookshelf and scanned the titles. Red started up the ladder, leaning against the shelves. "Wait, I think I see it," said Chloe. "The big one with the claws." She pointed, and Red's eyes narrowed at a sinister-looking leather-bound book with the Sorcerer's Cookbook on the spine. It was way over out of reach. Neither of them noticed that the stone owl standing sentry on Merlin's fireplace mantle blinked and opened their glowing eyes. As Red pushed herself as far as she could get, trying to make contact with the book's spine, the stone owls nodded down at the round table in the center of the room. The 12 swords from the crests in the round table dislodged from the stone and magically floated up into the air. Red noticed a shadow falling over the books in front of her and looked back. "Oh boy," she said under statement of the century. Suddenly, one of the swords flew right at her. Red let go of the ladder and slid down to the floor, dodging it. As more swords began to attack, Chloe pulled Red out of the way and drew her own blade. "Move!" Chloe cried. Swords flew from all sides. The stone owls prepared to take flight. One flapped its huge wings, flew into the unlit fireplace, and ascended straight up the chimney. "Oh no!" Chloe moaned. "It's going to tell Merlin!" But they couldn't worry about that right then. The swords were still coming straight for them. Chloe and Red fled in opposite directions, with Red improvising a weapon out of a floor candelabra to defend herself. Outside, Morgie sat up at his post and watched the owl fly from Merlin's office. Inside, Red ducked behind a vertical beam just in time for a sword to skewer it. The next attack forced Red to a spiral staircase, and when she made it to the balcony above it, she got a good visual of Chloe knocking swords every which way below. "Red, I can hold them," Chloe called. "Grab the book." Red took in her surroundings. A few feet away, suspended in mid-air, was a huge chandelier. If she could make the jump, maybe she could reach the bookshelf. but if she fell, she had to try. Red leapt from the balcony and grabbed hold of the side of the chandelier, using all her momentum to swing to where they'd seen the cookbook. She reached out and her fingers made contact, but she was still too far. The book slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor below her. Red jumped down onto the round table, commanded by the stone owl. The swords turned their attention to Red, but Chloe, thinking fast, grabbed a decorative shield off the wall and tossed it to her in a spinning arc. Chloe took shelter under the table while Red spotted the owl and called out, "Hey, bird brain!" She flung the shield at the owl and the bird hit the ground with a thud. As soon as it did, the swords began to disintegrate in mid-air. "Did you see that?" asked Chloe. "No bird, no swords," said Red. Slowly, Red crept along the floor, closer to the fallen owl. It had landed directly next to the sorcerer's cookbook. She had to try to grab the book, but above the table, where neither girl could see, a swirl of mist had appeared. It twisted and spun, becoming more and more solid until a massive suit of armor wielding its own sword stood in its place. It leapt down from the table and prepared to attack Red, and with the knight providing a distraction, the owl took flight with the cookbook in its talons. Red slid back on the ground, retreating from the knight's swinging sword. As the owl approached the fireplace with the book, Chloe panicked. She looked around, searching for anything that could help her stop it. And then she saw them, her glass boots. She pulled them off quickly, and with one last look at the gift her mother had given her, she hurled them at the owl. The glass shattered loudly when it hit the owl, forcing it to drop the book. Instantly, the knight began to dissipate into thin air. Red jumped up and ran to Chloe, then helped her tip the table on its side to block the fireplace so the owl couldn't escape. Panting, Chloe looked at Red. "Are you okay?" she asked. Red, still flooded with adrenaline, realized that Chloe had saved her life. "Those were from your mom," Red said. "It was time to lose the glass shoes," Chloe said. Red nodded, impressed, but before she could say a word, she heard the office door creak open. "Wow, what a performance," Uliana said, sauntering inside with the rest of the VKs. She grinned. She spotted the cookbook on the floor. "I'll be taking that," Uliana continued as a tentacle shot out and grabbed it before Red could stop her. "Hey, get your slimy suckers off that," cried Red. "I don't think so." Red lunged towards Uliana, spoiling for a fight. But Chloe held Red back. "It's over. There's too many of them," Chloe said, but there was something in her voice that made Red pause. With a nod, Chloe silently told Red to trust her, and Red did. Uliana studied the book greedily. Its cover was enclosed by a silver clasp, and it rippled with magic. It looked just as it had in the vapors from Uliana's cauldron. Uliana unclipped the clasp, and the VKs peered over her shoulders to see. "Finally! Let's see what kind of mischief you got for me," Uliana said, opening the book with hungry eyes, ready for dark knowledge. Whoosh! A cloud of green sparks shot out of the pages and hit Uliana and the VKs in the face. Instantly, they all froze in place. Their wide eyes' expressions were fixed in excitement. Their smiles stretched taut. The book blasted out of Uliana's hands and slid across the floor to the other side of the room. It snapped shut, and the silver claw clasp relocked around its cover. It was an enchanted booby trap. Red walked around the VKs. She was stunned, but she loved watching them get a dose of their own medicine. Red waved her hand in front of Uliana. She could hear the VKs trying to speak, but their jaws might as well have been wired shut. "Hex yeah," Red said. She got right up in Hook's face. Hook, straining to break free from the enchantment, only managed to say, "Urgh," before Red tipped him over and he fell, stiff as a board. Red grinned and yanked Hook's pirate boots off his immobilized legs. She turned to Chloe. "New shoes? My treat." "Thanks," Chloe said with a smirk. How'd you know that was going to happen? Red asked Chloe. The girls crossed the room to the book. Bridget said Merlin enchanted the cookbook so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, Chloe explained. Red stopped just as she was about to open up the book herself. She backed off wearily. Oh, right. You should probably open this then. These are definitely the wrong hands, she said. But Chloe pushed it back toward Red. No, you do it, she insisted. Red squinted. I'm evil, like my mom, remember? You're nothing like your mom, Red. You're your own person. You're a good person. But Red shook her head. For some reason, hearing those words from Chloe meant something to her. But she couldn't believe them. I lie. I cheat. I steal. I'm a lost cause. You also just stood up to a bully and you risked your own life to save mine. And right now, you're saving Oridon. Red stared at the ground. Chloe continued, I used to think that being good was about following the rules. Turns out, it's a lot more complicated. She locked eyes with Red, needing her friend to hear her out. You do so much good, Red. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Red let the words sink in. She really wanted to believe Chloe. You got this, Chloe insisted. So Red took a deep breath, faced the cookbook, unclipped the clasp, and opened the cover. The silver clasp faded away. Chloe gave Red a proud smile, acting like she had never doubted Red's goodness for a moment. Told you, she said smugly. Outside the office, Morgie kept watch from his perch. All of a sudden, Principal Merlin rounded a corner, hurrying toward his office. He muttered to himself as he rushed, Blast it all! What is it this time? Peter Pan's shadow or the Lady of the Lake? Oh, if it is, I'll turn it into a tadpole right quick. Morgie's eyes widened, and he let out a loud, ow! His wolf howl didn't seem to alert the other VKs that trouble was coming, so he tried again with his scrappy chihuahua bark. Merlin got closer, and Morgie gave one last signal, a meow like a cat's. Merlin paused, squinting into the darkness. Morgie fell silent, and after a moment, the principal resumed walking. Back inside the office, Red stared at the cookbook in amazement. How'd you know? She asked Chloe. Oh, I was like 80% max, Chloe said. I could have gotten permafrozen, and you were only 80%? Chloe shrugged. Then they heard footsteps and muttering at the closed door. It was Principal Merlin. The door opened, and the principal stepped inside, spotting the frozen group of VKs at once. But Red and Chloe? They were nowhere to be found. At an open window by Principal Merlin's desk, a curtain swung in the wind. Principal Merlin approached the VKs disapprovingly. Well, I hope you enjoyed detention, since you've just signed up for years. The VKs couldn't move, but a groan escaped Uliana's throat.